I always thought our love was unbreakable. 12 years together, through thick and thin, building a life and a family. I thought it meant something. But love isn't always enough. Trust, once shattered, turns love into something hollow and cold. I learned that lesson on a quiet Thursday night, sitting alone at the dining room table with a glass of wine in hand and her words echoing in my mind. It's just work. Don't worry about it. She was out again, late for the third night this week. A big project, she'd said, her tone just breezy enough to be convincing. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But the uneasy feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. Emily had always been ambitious. That was one of the things I admired most about her. She worked hard, pushed herself, and climbed the ladder in her career. I never resented her success. If anything, I was proud of her. We had a system. I handled the school pickups, the meals, the day-to-day household stuff, so she could focus on her work. It worked for us. Or at least, I thought it did. The first sign that something was off came a few months ago. She started coming home later, claiming the office was crazy or that a client meeting had run long. At first, I didn't think much of it. Everyone has busy periods at work. But then the late nights became more frequent, and her excuses began to sound rehearsed. "I'll be late tonight," she'd text, always around the same time. No details, no explanation. Just a simple statement. When she finally came home, she'd be distracted. "How was your day?" I'd ask, and she'd mumble something vague before disappearing into the shower or burying herself in her laptop. The warmth that used to fill our evenings was gone, replaced by a quiet tension that neither of us acknowledged. I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe she was just stressed. Maybe I was projecting my own insecurities. But as the weeks went on, my unease grew. I started noticing other things. Her phone, always face down on the counter. Her laughter at something on her screen that she didn't share with me. The way she avoided eye contact when I asked about her day. One night, when she was working late again, I decided to call her office line. It went straight to voicemail. Strange, I thought. I tried her cell. She didn't pick up. Hours later, she walked through the door, her makeup perfect, her hair freshly brushed. "Long day?" I asked, watching her carefully. "Exhausting," she replied, setting down her bag. "I'm going to bed. I'm wiped." As I listened to her footsteps fade down the hall, I felt a sinking sensation in my chest. I had no proof, nothing concrete, but my instincts told me something was very wrong. The turning point came on a Saturday morning. She'd left her laptop open while she went to get coffee. I wasn't looking for anything, but the screen was right there, and my eyes landed on an email subject line. "Looking forward to tonight." I hesitated, feeling like I was crossing a line. But the doubt and suspicion had been eating at me for weeks. I clicked on the email. It wasn't just a casual work message. It was personal, playful, flirtatious. The sender was a man I didn't know, someone named Brian. My heart raced as I scrolled through the thread. They talked about meeting up, about how they missed each other. There were inside jokes, references to places I'd never heard of. My stomach turned. This wasn't just a colleague. This wasn't just work. When Emily came back with her coffee, I quickly closed the laptop. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My mind was spinning too fast. I needed time to process what I'd seen, to decide what to do next. Over the next few days, I started paying closer attention. I noticed when she left for work earlier than usual, when she came home smelling of cologne that wasn't mine, when she smiled at her phone screen and quickly put it away when I entered the room. The pieces were all there, and I couldn't ignore them anymore. One evening, after the kids were in bed, I confronted her. I had spent the entire day preparing myself, running through the conversation in my mind, trying to stay calm. I sat her down at the dining room table, the same table where we'd shared so many meals and so many memories. "Emily," I said, my voice steady. "I need to talk to you." She looked up from her phone, her expression wary. "What's wrong?" I took a deep breath. "I know about Brian." Her face went pale. She set her phone down, her hands trembling slightly. "What are you talking about?" "I saw the emails," I said. "I know what's been going on. The late nights, the texts, the meetings that don't exist. I know you've been seeing him." She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing as she struggled to find the right words. Finally, she whispered, "I didn't mean for it to happen." I felt my chest tighten. Didn't mean for it to happen? I said, my voice rising. You've been lying to me for months. You've been sneaking around behind my back, while I've been here taking care of everything, trusting you, believing you. How could you do this to me? To our family? Tears filled her eyes. I'm sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I never wanted to hurt you. I was feeling so lost, so disconnected, and he made me feel. Don't, I said, cutting her off. Don't try to justify this. Don't tell me it's because you felt disconnected. If you were unhappy, you should have come to me. You should have talked to me. Instead, you chose to lie. You chose to break our trust. She reached out, but I pulled away. Please, John, she said. I'll end it. I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't give up on us. I stood up, my hands shaking. I need time to think, I said. I can't do this right now. I left the room, leaving her sitting there alone. My mind was a storm of emotions: anger, hurt, betrayal. The woman I thought I knew, the life I thought we had, was gone. And I didn't know if I could ever get it back. The morning after our confrontation, the house felt quieter than it had in years. Emily and I barely spoke. I took the kids to school while she stayed home, her eyes red and puffy. The entire drive, I kept replaying her words in my head. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was as if she thought an affair was something you accidentally tripped and fell into. By the time I returned, I had made my decision. She was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping a mug of coffee, staring blankly out the window. She looked up as I walked in, her expression a mix of hope and dread. I need you to leave, I said, my voice calm but firm. Her eyes widened. What? John, please, we can. No, I interrupted. We can't. I gave you everything, Emily. My trust, my love, our family. And you threw it away. I need you to leave, at least for a while. I can't be around you right now. She put her mug down, her hands trembling. What about the kids? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. We'll figure it out, I said. They don't need to know everything right now. But I can't just pretend everything's fine. I need space to think. And I need to show them what it means to stand up for yourself, even when it's hard. She started crying again, but this time I didn't feel the urge to comfort her. Instead, I turned and walked out of the room. In the days that followed, Emily moved into her sister's house. I stayed in the home with the kids, trying to maintain some sense of normalcy. I focused on them, making their favorite meals, helping with homework, playing board games in the evening. They could tell something was different, but I kept my explanation simple. Mom and Dad are taking some time apart. It wasn't long before friends and family started asking questions. I didn't share the full details, but word got around that Emily had been unfaithful. People were shocked. She'd always been the outgoing, ambitious one, the one who seemed so happy and put together. They didn't see the strain beneath the surface, the lies that had quietly unraveled our life. I began seeing a therapist, not to fix the marriage, but to work through my own feelings. The anger, the hurt, the sense of betrayal, it was all consuming. I needed to understand why I hadn't seen the signs earlier, why I'd ignored the little warnings until they became too big to ignore. Therapy helped me recognize that it wasn't my fault. I had been a good husband, a supportive partner. I wasn't perfect, but I hadn't driven her to cheat. She had made that choice on her own. When Emily suggested counseling together, I agreed, not because I wanted to reconcile, but because I wanted closure. In those sessions, she admitted to the affair, acknowledged the lies, and apologized again and again. She said all the right things, but I couldn't find it in me to believe her anymore. You say you're sorry, I told her in one session. But you were sorry when I caught you. You weren't sorry when you were doing it. She looked down, her face filled with regret. But regret couldn't erase what had happened. After a few months, I made the decision to file for divorce. Emily cried when I told her, begging me to reconsider, but I knew it was the right choice. Our marriage had become a web of lies, and no amount of therapy could untangle it. The divorce process was painful, but it gave me a sense of control. I made sure the kids were my top priority, working out a custody arrangement that kept them as stable as possible. I let go of the house, finding a new place that felt like a fresh start. Emily and I kept communication to a minimum, speaking only about the kids or logistical matters. Over time, the raw anger began to fade, replaced by a dull ache that I knew would take time to heal. I focused on rebuilding my life, rediscovering who I was outside of the marriage. I found new hobbies, reconnected with old friends, and even started dating again. It wasn't easy to open up, but each step reminded me that I was more than her betrayal. I was someone who had loved deeply, who had been hurt, but who had chosen to keep moving forward. Looking back, I don't regret the years I spent with Emily. They taught me about love, trust, and resilience. Her actions broke my heart, but they also showed me my own strength. I came out the other side knowing what I deserved, knowing how to set boundaries, and knowing that I could rebuild my life on my own terms. Emily's web of lies may have unraveled our marriage, but it didn't define me. I picked up the pieces, and I built something new, something stronger. Something that was mine.